Welcome to the Representing Rural podcast by Rural Community Alliance. And I know it's been a while, but we are back with our new series, and we are featuring individuals who were recognized as champions of rural Arkansas this summer by Rural Community Alliance. It started back like in 2010 or 12. It was in between the legislative sessions, and it was just a time for us to honor and recognize rural leaders from across Arkansas who've done extraordinary things for their communities, their regions, or the full state. We recognize legislators and nonprofit leaders, just community leaders, elected officials throughout rural Arkansas. And Andy from the North Central region, he was one of our honorees this summer at our Champions of Rural Arkansas event. How you doing, Andy?
I'm doing good, Candace. Thanks for inviting me and giving me this opportunity.
So I want you to first, introduce yourself and share a little bit of background information about your role as a rural leader.
My name is Andy McCutcheon. I live in St. Joe, Arkansas, Searcy County, right next to the Buffalo River. I grew up here. Right after high school, I joined the United States Air Force. I did 20 years on active duty. Ended up as a recruiter for the Air Force my last 4 years of service in Conway, Arkansas. So I kind of got back close to home and, and going to the schools. I got some rural schools in my zone down there. I had schools like Guy Perkins, Rosebud, Quitman. It kind of reflected back to the position I was in, 16, 17 years earlier, where there weren't a lot of opportunities for young people, especially in the rural communities. And I made the choice to, join the military, continue my education, and, see the world. And my father, who'd done one enlistment in the Air Force when he was younger, he encouraged me to stay if I liked it. His advice was, if you like it, stay in until they make you quit. And I did. I enjoyed it. In my travels in the Air Force, I went to a lot of countries that I saw people that weren't as fortunate as we are in this country. Even in our rural areas, we have it better than a lot of those people did. And I saw the impact that we made when we went there, especially in the humanitarian missions. So when I got out and I moved back home, I kind of carried that with me, and I looked for ways that I could help out in my community. Early on, I was the helper. Other people were doing the organizing and leading, and I would just show up and help. As those leaders started getting, older, and it was more difficult for them to step up, I started taking on some leadership roles. And what led me to where I'm at now, our school, a rural school, St. Joe High School or St. Joe Schools, we were faced with a consolidation effort for the high school a couple of years ago. And I took on the leadership role in trying to oppose that, trying to find ways to keep our high school open. We weren't successful, but during that process, we brought a lot of community members together. And that's where I got introduced to Rural Community Alliance. And we formed a nonprofit organization called St. Joe Futures. And the meaning behind that is we're working for the future of our children, our community, and our culture. The rural Arkansas lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And I've just met so many people, through RCA and through this. We do fundraisers. We offer scholarships to any of our St. Joe students that graduate, no matter what school they happen to be attending, whether virtual, homeschooled, or in a neighboring county. If they're from St. Joe, we offer a scholarship.
Wow.
We've got some programs going on. We're starting a kids closet at our elementary school where we're taking donated clothing, and we have a classroom that's not in use anymore that we've set up where, if a family, is struggling, which in the economy right now, that's pretty common, they can come in, if they need clothing items for their kids, they can come in, they can take what they need. If a child has an accident during the day at school, tears their clothes or whatever, the teachers have access to that room. They can go down and pick something out for that child to get them through the rest of the day. So we're making an impact, and we're drawing our community back together. And a lot of good things are in the works for St. Joe and our community.
That's awesome news to hear. You're meeting so many needs in your community, from the clothing closet to the scholarships. And I love the fact that that child does not necessarily have to go to a 4-year. Understanding that, a lot of certificate programs and a lot of associate programs will lead our children from rural Arkansas into careers that pay them nicely. So I love that you all are taking steps forward to supporting that. So what inspired you? Well, you kind of talked about that already, like what inspired you to be a rural leader? What do you find most fulfilling about, stepping into this leadership role?
For me, it's the impact we have in the community. Seeing the kids, recognize what we're doing and teaching them these values at that young age. I've always been pretty active in the school here since I came back. My grandson goes to school there, since Head Start. So I've always volunteered. I've helped out, but I can walk in that school up there, and I bet you there's not a handful of those kids that don't know who I am. And of those that don't know me, they recognize me, they see me there, they just don't know who I am. But we recently had a parade. It's the first parade we've ever done for our athletics in Ozark Mountain High School. And I'm a volunteer coach for our trap team this year. So the principal asked me if I'm trap, shooting sports,
okay.
skeet.
Oh, okay.
So he asked me if I wanted to do a float, bring my truck, whatever. And I contacted 3 or 4 of the participants from last year's team. So we went up and we drove through, and they had all the elementary schools. They brought them to the high school campus, and they had them all kind of the greeting line at the end as the floats and stuff came in. And when my truck pulled through, the St. Joe student section just went wild. And there was actually a video of it online. They shared it on our Facebook page, and you could tell. I told my wife, I said, listen, that's us pulling up in front of the St. Joe kids, and you could hear them over the rest of the students out there. Now, granted, 4 of the shooters on the truck were from St. Joe as well, so they're cheering for their former classmates. But that kind of appreciation and recognition, and teaching these kids that you don't have to have a lot to be able to give back.
Yes.
Your time is valuable. Just a few minutes of your day can make a huge impact on somebody who's struggling. And that's one of the things, we've done projects here in the community that people thought, well, that'll take us half a day. And we get enough people to come out and we're done in an hour.
Yes.
And they're just like, wow, we would have never got this many people to come out. And it's all about the network and the community being involved. So what I take the most get from it is seeing the results on our kids and our community members' faces. We do stuff for the elderly folks around here too that are, having trouble. Maybe they need their yards mowed or something fixed around the house. If I can get a group of kids together to go out and help me, we go take care of that. And the look of appreciation on those folks' faces is all the payment we need. I mean, that just, it makes my day that they realize somebody in their community still cares about them, even though they're not able to be involved in their community as much as they were in the past. So it's just the gratitude of, the people you help and seeing how it impacts them.
So give people a picture of like the location of St. Joe in the state of Arkansas.
We are between, we're about 30 miles or 30 minutes south of Harrison, on Highway 65. So, and the biggest, we're above Marshall, north of Marshall, which is probably about 25 minutes north of Clinton. So we're kind of in the upper north central area. The Buffalo River is 5 miles from my house. So if you're familiar with the Tyler Bend area or Grinders Ferry area of the Buffalo River, that's where St. Joe is. We're right up the road from that.
So you kind of spoke of it a little bit earlier about how you got involved, with the school board and everything, being faced with consolidation. Well, you've gone through consolidation once before, and you now one school district with the larger county and another county as well, right?
2 counties. Our Ozark Mountain School District has campuses in Searcy County, Newton County, and Marion County.
It's 3 counties.
And 3 counties. Those schools joined. They were independent school districts, 20-something years ago. And they were consolidated, Governor Huckabee, to form Ozark Mountain School District. Because of our enrollment numbers and just, the funding, we consolidated the high school campuses to Western Grove, which is in Newton County. So our St. Joe campus and our Bruno Payette campus are K through 6 now.
Okay.
And all of our high school students are bused up to Western Grove, which is another 20-minute ride for each of the campuses, which, some of us already had hour-long bus routes just to get to the St. Joe and Bruno campus. Now they're adding another 20 minutes to that. So I'm on the school board now. I'm the vice president, and we've submitted for state funding, and we are in the works of trying to find a location to build a centralized campus.
Okay.
And then move all 3 schools to one central area.
Oh, like K through 12 in one location.
K through 12, one campus, centralized between the communities. That was the goal when the 3 campuses, 3 communities consolidated, was to eventually have a centralized campus. That has not transpired, and that was one of the things that I talked about. I won't say campaigned on because nobody ran against me, but it was one of the things that I told the voters in my zone was I'm going to push for this. I'm not saying I'll make it happen, but we're wanting until we try, and I'm going to push it. So we've submitted our paperwork to the state for funding. We've looked at 3 properties. We've eliminated one of them, and we're getting ready to do soil testing on the 2 remaining and go from there. So it's in the works. Now, the millage issue will come later, and that's always
I was just about to ask about that.
We don't know. I mean, I'm optimistic that the voters in our district would pass it, at least a majority of them, because this has been talked about for 20 plus years and it's never taken root. And I told our superintendent and the rest of the board members, I said, if we find the property, we need to put up a sign. that this is the future home of Ozark Mountain Schools,
For sure.
and let people drive by it and see it. Let them know we're working to secure the educational future for our kids for the next 30, 40 years on a new campus.
I love that. That's that transparency that the public needs to know. Like, this is the site.
Yeah.
This is something that we want you all to support, through this millage. It seems, and I was just about to ask about that because I know another school district, well, my son attends the Marley Lane School District, but there's another district in this region. They're trying to get a millage passed because they need a new high school building desperately. And it's just been such a struggle. So I was going to ask about, how hard or easy it was for you all in the North Central region.
It's going to be hard, and I'm already, I'm already feeling questions about that, concerns. And the one thing I've been telling people is, like, you pay taxes every year, every day, when you go buy something.
Every day, yeah.
But how often do you get to see where those taxes go? If we're able to build this campus, this school, you can come and touch it. You can come to ball games, and you can come to community events in it. You can see where your tax dollars went. And not only, a lot of them, well, I don't have any kids in school anymore. Well, no, but you might have grandkids someday.
Exactly.
So think about a generation away, because that's what we're building for. We're not building for these kids that are in school right now, because even if we get everything approved, we probably wouldn't have the campus open until 2027.
Yeah,
so I'd be lucky to see Masen get to graduate from it. But it's not about him.
Yes.
It's about those kids that are coming behind them. And if we don't do something, all of our campuses are old. I mean, because they were, like I said, they were independent districts to begin with. Then they consolidated, and all they've had is a few remodels here and there and some additions. So we're faced with older buildings, older infrastructure it's gonna either cost a lot of money to repair before long, or we can replace it with a brand new campus. I mean, Mountain Home right now is facing state action if they don't correct some infrastructure problems over there.
Wow.
The state has given them 6 years to get it done, or they're going to come in and take over and do it.
Wow.
So that's Mountain Home School District, who are a lot better financially than we are. We don't want to have to face that kind of action when we don't have the funding to do it. So we're going about this with, being transparent about it, asking the public's input, but we're also letting them see that this is for the future of this school district. If we don't do this, our kids are going to be going to different school districts in the future anyway. So this is about the longevity of keeping a school for our children in this area, that they don't have to ride a bus an hour and a half or longer one way.
Yes. You need a school. You need a good school in your community if you're going to, like you said, build for the future. That's something you need. You've kind of talked about some of the challenges, but what are some other key issues or challenges that that you all deal with in St. Joe or in the county, and how are you all addressing them?
Well, I can tell you one of the key issues, and it's a hot topic right now, is the Buffalo National River.
Yes, it is.
Everybody loves the buffalo.
Yeah.
They talk about the tourism impact, but Searcy County and Newton County, two of the counties that have the most area of the river in them, are two of the poorest in the state. The land that was taken, the public land, which there's no property tax on now, takes away from our tax dollars in our schools and our government entities. So without a big, population and job opportunities here, we struggle on the tax end of it, being able to fund a lot of our schools and our government offices. Our road department for the county, there's like over 800 miles of unpaved roads in Searcy County that they maintain
Mm.
on less than $1 million a year. So when you add tourism traffic to those unpaved roads,
Mhm.
there's no funding coming in to, help maintain those. That comes out of the county. So while the National River may be a good thing with tourism, we're not seeing any financial gain out of it at our schools or our local governments. And now we've got an issue going on with, the runway group, the Waltons, whoever's behind all this, wanting to increase the impact of the Buffalo National River, turned into a park preserve, and bring more tourists in. And again, that would be a good thing if we were seeing some financial gain out of it in our communities, but
Mhm.
we're really not. I mean, property values are going up, which will increase taxes. But if our, poorer families can't afford that and they
Mhm.
move away, that just takes more kids out of our schools. So it's unique in dealing with that. And we're trying to, reach out to our Chamber of Commerce, our different agencies that are trying to bring in jobs and create some economic stimulus in the counties. And we're having gradual success in Searcy County. We're having a few more businesses open up, but it's things like this that come along that kind of get everybody in an uproar again,
Yeah.
about the way the river was formed. And it makes, in my opinion, it makes outside companies a little hesitant to move in here because they're not sure how they're going to be received.
Mm.
You got one side, the environmentalists that want to protect the buffalo and the watershed. Then you got the other side that says, hey, we need this industry here for jobs and for our economy. So we're trying to work both sides of that, and I'm on I'm on a couple of committees for the Buffalo Conservation Center or committee, and I'm on the an RCPP program, which is agriculture related, which both of them deal with water quality issues and in the river.
Mhm.
I'm on those committees to be a liaison between the public and those organizations. And we've done good work. We've made inroads and we're doing really well until this runway group thing came up. And now a lot of people are, questioning whether or not they want to be involved anymore. So we face a unique challenge there with having the river. We're proud of it. We love it. I
Yeah.
grew up on it,
Mhm.
but the park side of being a national river, it brings a lot of challenges that communities don't face normally with having a tourist attraction near them.
Especially smaller rural communities. I mean,
Yes.
and not being able to receive really any tax benefit directly from it. That's
$11,000 a year. That's what the National Park Service contributes to the Ozark Mountain School District. Yes, it's nothing. I mean,
$11,000.
11,800, I believe, was the last figure I had. And
You
you
all
know,
are responsible in the county for cleaning it up and all of that, right? Maintaining
right.
it.
Any emergency response, we have drownings, we have people go missing, we have hikers, fall and have accidents. All of our first responders, our deputies, come out on these and they look for these people, they search for them along with the Park Service, but we're not reimbursed for that. There's no extra money given to those deputies who are, on duty time. A lot of them stay and work off duty hours, helping out. There's no compensation for that. Like I said, some of these county roads might get maintenance done on them 3 times a year.
Yeah.
Well, when these canoe shuttles start running back and forth about 30, 40 times a day,
Oh my goodness.
yeah, and your next maintenance isn't going to come for 2 or 3 months. the people who live on those roads, you know, they have to drive in and out to go to work somewhere. Our
They're gonna
school
get a new
buses have,
suspension system. 'Cause
the school buses have to go up and down
experience.
those roads.
Yes. Oh my goodness. All of
So
that has not been accounted for by the runway group and whoever is putting on this show and trying to make it into this, because like it's all of those intricate pieces that affect us that live in these small places more than the bigger picture of what they're trying to shove down. And that's just ridiculous. And what do you know the average, I guess, county road mileage for places or for counties? Is it like that's I'm sure that is 800 plus miles. That's a
yeah,
lot.
ours close to 900 miles. That's of unpaved. That's dirt road in Searcy.
Gravel.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
You know,
That,
and they have, I think it might, I think they have 8 graders, road graders. So, and they usually pair those. So there's 4 pairs of graders trying to maintain these roads throughout the year. And it, you know, like I said, some roads get twice, some may get 3 times a year. But a lot of these roads that are river access, they have to come out a 4th time
yeah.
and maintain because they get impassable. You just cannot. I mean, you have to drive about 5 to 10 miles an hour to not tear the front end out of your vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
That's people who have to get up and go to, you know, come and go to work. Like I said, that's on our school bus routes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things that somebody who's looking at the goal of bringing in, you know, competing with Colorado and
Yeah.
tourism
We can't do
don't
that, right?
look at. And those of us who are here and face it, we know it. And,
Yeah.
and as soon as they say something like that, then they wonder why we're against it.
Mhm.
Well, you know, if you could put $1 million in our road fund every year to help us do that,
Exactly.
we wouldn't mind as much. You
We
know,
can talk then, but until then, it's no. I get it. I just feel like it's totally disrespectful how um the group or whoever they are, they did not like have town halls or
right.
even have a conversation, a real conversation with the chamber director. It, I'm apparently they were like phone surveys or something done,
Phone survey, and
but
I don't have the final results. I got a preliminary, and when I got those results, they had only contacted 7 people in Searcy County,
oh my
7
goodness.
people in Newton County, and the rest were in Baxter, Madison, and Marion, which, you know, like I said, the majority of the Buffalo River is in Newton and Searcy County. It was a very, in my opinion, and I've dealt with polls, um, it was a very selective poll,
Mm-hmm.
and it was engineered to solicit responses. In other
Mm-hmm.
words, it was a push pull. They push you towards an answer and they pull you back over to where they want you. You know, the the results that they came up with, that 68% of the people that they polled were in favor of this. Um, I I can tell you, of the 14 that were interviewed in Newton and Searcy County, there was not 68% in favor of it. There was probably 98% against it. There might have been one holdout somewhere.
Yeah.
But, you know, like I said, with the Buffalo River Conservation Committee and the inroads we had made in building relationships, rapport, when they did this, I mean, that would have been a perfect platform to come to because of the diversity of those committees,
Exactly.
and just proposed, hey, where do we go from here? Where should we start?
Mm-hmm.
I really think they set us back in the work we've been doing, because now people are suspicious again. And that was one of the things we were having to overcome. It's one of the reasons I volunteered to be on these committees, was to have a local ear in these meetings and be able to come back and talk to the community members and say, look, there's no hidden agenda here. This is a good thing. If you want to have your septic system, repaired, if it's failing, we have funds set aside to help you do that.
Wow.
Don't be scared that they're going to, find you in violation of something because it's not up to code.
Yeah.
That's the purpose of it, is to come get it to code.
They need it.
And I told them that.
Thank you.
Yeah. I told them that from the beginning. I said, these people are not going to let you on their property to inspect their septic system if they think they're going to get written up. So I encouraged them to hire a local representative, somebody that people knew that could come out and talk to them. I said, if you hire a stranger and they come in here, they're going to be suspicious of them. They're not going to let them in the backyard or wherever. And we ended up getting a local program coordinator, and that program was going good and doing good work. But now I'm afraid they're going to think, well, this is probably part of that Walton thing, and they're just wanting to see if my septic system's polluting the buffalo, and then they're going to shut me, condemn my property. And we worked really hard to build this rapport and get these programs going. And I just, I told some of our legislators, I feel like I got slapped in the face for all the front work I did out here for these organizations. My name got thrown up on social media when this stuff started. Andy McCutcheon's in these meetings. He knew this was coming. And I was like, whoa, pump the brakes. I first heard about this the same time y'all did. And, certain people who knew me well stood up and said, no, he would never be involved in that. He'd have been the first one screaming from the rooftop. And, give him some time to get information. At our last Cattlemen's meeting, I'm the vice president of that as well. I was there and I spoke on that. And a lot of people, it was like a collective sigh in the room. Okay, now we've got some actual answers here and kind of know what's going on. And I hope that's what happens at Jasper tomorrow night, is good information gets out.
Yes.
And we know the avenue we need to take to monitor this and to voice our disagreement with it.
So much damage has been done.
Oh, it has. I mean, a lot of these people do not understand the history of the Buffalo National River. I was young then. I was 4, but my parents, my older siblings, they were old enough to remember it. My parents have talked about it in front of me. People were forcibly removed from their land to form the Buffalo National River. People were handcuffed and dragged off their property, and bulldozers came and bulldozed their house down while they were putting them in the car. Wow. A lot of people don't understand that.
Right.
People were served eviction notices at gunpoint by the U.S. Marshals. Yes, a lot of people negotiated and sold their property to the park, but those that didn't want to and held out, their property was taken by eminent domain and they were forced off. And, those feelings still run deep generations later.
Yes.
Then you have somebody come in like this unannounced out of the blue and say, hey, we're gonna do this. That ripped all the scabs, all the healing off that wound, and it's bare again for a lot of people. And if they were sincere and genuinely wanted to do something that would help our area, they could have went about it a much different way and got a very different outcome, I believe. It just needed to be done the right way.
Yep. Oh my goodness. You're teaching me. I didn't know about the history of the Buffalo River.
Yeah.
So for people that experienced it and lived through that and are still alive today, that is definitely ripping that wound open again.
there are people that are a little bit older than me that have shared their experiences of going to visit, their grandparents and having, you know, 300 acres on a farm that they rode horses, they went hunting, and then their grandparents getting served an eviction notice by two armed park rangers and a U.S. Marshal.
300 acres.
And 300 acres. It was this one particular family. They owned 160 acres with the grandfather, and I think it was his son owned 140 adjoining him. And he had actually sold some of his property on the other side of the river to the park the day before. He'd been in their office. The next day, while he was out checking on his cattle, he came across two armed men on his property. And they told him, as of 10 o'clock this morning, we own this. You need to go home. There's somebody waiting for you. Well, his wife was at home alone, so he hurried back, and there was a U.S. Marshal there serving him an order to vacate. He had 90 days to move out. And that was, collect the cattle and get everything he wanted off his property because they were taking control of it. And they posted guards on these properties. So they would only allow the owners and people like that to come and go. And the only thing they could do was, to be removing their property from it.
Oh,
and the ones that didn't abide by it, at the end of their 90 days, they went in by force and took them off their property. So, yeah, the runway group should have done a little bit more research in the history.
Ooh. I have chills. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
I can't remember the name of it, but there's a book. A local author wrote it. I'll try to find it and get it to you, but it entails a lot of what happened, a lot of the stories like I just shared with you, that this lady went around and she interviewed people who had been involved in it. And I think it's like Stolen Waters, shared Lost Dreams, Stolen Waters, something like that. But I can get a copy of it. There's a store up the road that actually brought some more in because of all this.
I definitely want a copy when I
all
see
right.
you.
I'll try to grab one tomorrow when I go through there.
Wow. Thank you for sharing all that, Andy. You've educated me, and I know when others hear this that they'll learn stuff things they did not know about the North Central region of the state and the history of the Buffalo River. Thank you so much for giving that to us.
You're welcome.
Whew, okay. So what advice would you give to individuals residing in rural communities that are looking to be involved, to be leaders, and to make a difference in their communities?
There's a couple of things. One is, and this is just this is a life lesson, I guess you will, or a life principle for me. If you walk the walk, or if you talk the talk, walk the walk. So if you're asking people to volunteer, to be involved, you be involved. My experience in the military, I gravitated towards those leaders that led by example, other than, just directed you to go do something. And that's the kind of leader I became. I would never ask any of my troops to do anything I wouldn't do myself. And, that's kind of the thing I look for even today, in these programs and organizations. So if you're gonna try to organize and lead by example, be out front, and by all means involve the kids, because that's your next generation of leaders. You run into a lot of these organizations and you see the older folks out doing everything, and the kids aren't involved. The kids will come to the event, but they're on their phone or they're off with their friends. Get them involved, give them roles. Um, one of the things that St. Joe Futures is going to do, we haven't done it yet, but one of our visions is for our youth involvement, we want some of our school students to form their own group under St. Joe Futures Youth Group, and have them tell us what do we need to organize, what's going on, what can we do to bring the kids together. Because what I used to enjoy, 30, 40 years ago is not what these kids are looking at today. So get their opinions, get their ideas, and incorporate them, involve them, build future leaders while you're working on your community, because that's who's going to step in and take over someday. I'm in kind of a unique situation. I was involved in the school. I helped with the basketball teams. I do summer, mini camps for the kids that couldn't afford to go to some basketball camp. I'd go in, open up the gym, and work with them. We have open gym on Sunday nights. Well, now that I'm a board member, I can go open up the school and allow them into the gym. And I use that to my advantage because there's a certain group of kids that want to come play ball. Well, we had our fall festival the other night. We needed concession stand workers. So I called my little group of guys. I'm like, hey, I'm helping you guys out all the time. It's time for you to help out the community. I need you in the concession stand for fall festival. Some of the teachers walked up and go, how did you get these guys to volunteer for anything? I'm like, you got to have something they want. And they want in this gym on Sunday afternoons.
Reciprocate.
So, I mean, these are guys who already graduated, and they're out working jobs. But I told them, I said, this is part of your civic duty as community members. You got to help out. And by the end of the night, they grumbled a little in the beginning, but at the end of the night, they were like, hey, this was actually fun. If you need us again, let us know. So plant those seeds, cultivate them a little, and you'll be amazed at what will grow.
Like I said in the beginning, I just love to hear your stories, Andy, because it's not anything that happened overnight. You've been at it for a while in different capacities and different roles, but in every one of those roles, you have made each one meaningful and been intentional in each one to make those relationships and connections like you have with those younger guys in your community. Thank you. So I won't keep you all day. I'll just ask you one more question. I can ask you a lot more, but I don't want to keep you all day once again. But what is your vision for the future of St. Joe? And how do you plan to work towards that vision?
At one time, St. Joe was actually the biggest town in Searcy County. We had a railroad depot here. We had a motel, several restaurants. And, just like things change over time, the economy kind of dropped out back in the Depression, and people had to move elsewhere. And things kind of shifted. The railroad, went out of business, and the automobile came into prominence. I would like to see our community grow, but I want it to be done in a way that we try to keep our traditional heritage. This part of the state, there's the timber industry is a big employer. There's a mill right down the road in St. Joe. There's another wood pellet mill north of us. So I've always envisioned that if we could bring in some more type of wood related industry, that it would fit our heritage and the local history around here. Housing is a big issue. I actually have some people working on that. There's being houses renovated and remodeled that have sat vacant for years. So we're growing and it's starting and it's going, everybody always seems to want things fast.
Yeah.
I'm not that big on fast.
Mm-hmm.
I want it to grow at a pace that is comfortable for the community.
Mm-hmm.
And that allows your infrastructure to catch up with your growth.
Yes.
We, there's programs out there, there's grants every year that cities can apply for, rural communities, for road improvement. And we've been slowly applying for that every year and repaving certain streets in the town. And that infrastructure, like I said, we're able to keep up with our growth. Now on some of those paved streets, we've got people who came in, bought those properties, cleaning them up, renovating them, whether they're going to be Airbnbs or rentals or whether they're actually going to be somebody move in there, that's up to the individual owners.
Yeah.
But when somebody visits our community and they drive down that newly paved street and they don't see, brush growing up in yards and houses with a roof hanging, it looks better, it's more attractive, and it draws more people to our community. Yeah. So my vision is that I don't want us to be the biggest town in Searcy County again, but I want us to be back to that thriving community where everybody still knew everybody, but you didn't have to drive 5 miles to see your neighbor.
Yeah.
Somebody right down the road, and get back to that helping, lending a hand. I did a lot of that earlier. I'm so busy now that's a rarity. I have trouble keeping up with my own stuff, but I used to go help people out. Just the other day, I mean, this is a small example. I got a neighbor down the road. He's in a wheelchair. His sister-in-law drives him to his appointments and stuff. He has a van with a lift in it and everything. So I don't have, she can get him in and out. But she calls me and she goes, "Are you at home?" I said, "Sure." She goes, "If you have a minute, would you come over and try to jumpstart Jess's van? He has a doctor's appointment today and it won't start." So I drive over there, take my jumper cables. Well, it was a bad set of cables. I couldn't get a spark. I said, "Hang on, I've got a new set. I'll be right back." Run back to the house, grab those, come over. I get the van started, and they're both in there like, "Thank you, thank you." I said, "No problem. Just let me know if you have any trouble. I'll be around." And she goes, "I have called a half dozen people and you're the only one that answered the phone."
Mm-hmm.
So things like that, if I need something and they're able to do it, it's a phone call and they reciprocate, and that's what a rural community is about, is helping your neighbors, helping your friends. And that we have so many new people that have moved in this area that really we don't know. So that's what I want for my organization, is to draw everybody together and become a community again, instead of just being, people who live down the road that you don't know their name. And that's one of the things I want to achieve is just to bring the community aspect back. In the latter years of our high school, during the basketball game, when I was a kid, you couldn't get in. You'd have to stand and look around the corner of the wall because of the stands were packed. Mm-hmm. I'd go to basketball games up here, and the visitor side would have more people sitting in the stands than the home side. Mm-hmm. And I was like, where is everybody? Mm. I mean, I know there's people that live right across the street. Their lights are on. I know they're home. Yeah. Why are they not over here speaking to school? And somewhere along the way, we lost our sense of community. And, our churches do great work, but there's a lot of people that say, "Hey, I don't want to come to that cookout because I don't want to be preached at."
Yeah.
So I work with our churches and I say, "Hey, let's make this a community event, not a church event. And the ones that want to talk about church will gravitate to you and talk about church. And the ones that want to talk about community will gravitate to me and talk about the community. But we'll still all be together. And we've done a couple of programs like that, a couple of fish fries and just community gatherings. And we've had huge turnout. So it's growing. Our community is pulling back together. So the outlook for St. Joe, I think, is good. I think, will we ever have our high school back? No. But we will have a bigger impact in this new campus if we can get it built. And that's what it's about. That's the end goal for me, is once bring the St. Joe community back together, get a new campus built. Let's bring the three communities truly together as one in a unified location, because that's always been the rub. Is we send our kids to Western Grove. Well, St. Joe and Bruno had to give it up. Western Grove didn't give up anything.
Yeah.
If we get a centralized campus, everybody gives a little to get the benefit of a new campus. And that's the only fair way I see of doing it. And I've told the rest of the board that in the community. I said, look, if my grandson has to get on a bus and travel 20 more minutes to go to high school, and I can cut that in half, and then the Western Grove kids now have to travel 10 minutes more, that's fair.
That
The
is.
Bruno kid, everybody has skin in the game. And of course, there are people that will argue that. They're from Western Grove. But I told them, I said, if you honestly can't tell me that making Bruno Pyatt kids and St. Joe kids travel extra is okay, and the thought of having Western Grove kids travel a little farther isn't, then we are not one. We will never be one, because it's okay for them to have to get up earlier and travel farther, but it's not okay for these. Then we're giving preferential treatment to one group of kids over two groups over here. And that's never okay. As a school board, remember, my job is to do what's best for the students as a whole.
Yes.
That means all of them. And they think I'm against the kids in Western Grove when I'm not. I'm not against any kids. I want what's best for all of them together. And, in the end, I think when we come down to this issue on the school, it's, the parents will jump up and down and say, if you do this, I'm taking my kids here, I'm taking my kids out of school and doing this. Well, we learned from consolidating the high schools. St. Joe didn't like it. Bruno Pyatt didn't like it. But the kids wanted to stay with their friends. And they didn't like it either. They didn't want to leave the school they'd grown up in. But if Jimmy's going and Mary's going, then I won't go with them. And that's what it ended up, And I think it'll be the same way from the other side. I think the Western Grove kids will be like, hey, yeah, I don't want to leave this school. I know it. I'm comfortable here, but that's where Sammy's going and that's where Julie's going. So I want to go with my friends. And we may lose a few. We lost a few over this, but I think we'll gain more kids back with a new campus and more opportunities, that a modern campus can give you, in the classrooms and the facilities. So I'm optimistic. I know there's a lot of challenges ahead of us, and they're going to be uphill, but we've made a lot of inroads. I've made a lot of, connections, and I think I feel better about it now than I would have 5 years ago before I was in the position I am now. And a lot has changed for me in the past 5 years in the leadership role, which at times it's a heavy burden to bear. But then when you get through that part and you see the outcome, it's all worth it.
Preach, Andy.
So hey, I joke with my wife every now and then. I'm like, you're going to have to quit your job and just become my secretary because I can't even keep up with my email.
Sounds like you need one. Oh man. Oh, it has been a pleasure being able just to hear and listen and learn from you, Andy. Is there anything else you want to share before we wrap up this call?
If there's anybody out there, especially from rural communities, that if you've heard or you've been seeing on social media about what's going on with the buffalo, that is a national river, and it belongs, it belonged to the landowners here in Searcy County, and that's one of the things that always bothered us and still bothers me today is when I hear about that group discovering it. They discovered the Buffalo River and wanted to preserve it. My ancestors have been here since the mid 1800s, and that river was preserved because they found it in 1970, and it was in pristine condition. So the local people have been doing a pretty good job of taking care of it. But if you want to reach out, call Bruce Westerman's office and say, hey, look, leave the folks up in the Buffalo River area alone. Leave it as a national river that we all can go enjoy for free. Because one of the things that could change, they say it wouldn't, but it could change if they change it to a park and preserve, is you have to pay fees to float, fees to camp, and it shouldn't be that way. That should be free for everybody to enjoy and appreciate, which we welcome the tourists now. We understand the logistics of what comes with it, but we don't want to see it double because we certainly can't take care of it in our local communities if the population of tourists doubles. But reach out. Get involved in your own community. If you see something, don't sit back and wait for somebody else to take up the banner. Grab it yourself. Do what you can, and you'll be amazed. You'll be amazed how many people will follow a leader. A leader can't lead from the back. That'll be my parting words. If you're going to talk the talk, walk the walk, get out in front and lead. You'll be surprised who follows.
Amen. Andy has left y'all with a call to action if you didn't realize that in your personal community and in solidarity with Searcy County and Newton County and their advocacy to keep their river as it is and not allow an outside entity to determine what they need. He's giving you 2 call to actions, but more importantly, what did you say, Andy? Can't leave.
You got to talk the talk, walk the walk.
That's it.
And
That's it. All right, Andy. Well,
it's something Candace learned in class not too long ago. if you want something done or you're trying to get something, get off your ask. And that was ASK. Ask, because you never know what kind of doors that will open when you just ask somebody for help or a contribution or advice.
Yes.
We learned that in the class we were in, and you'd be surprised just asking the question of someone what it can result in. One of our fundraisers, we asked one person if they could help out, and it turned into a donation for the food we were serving. Another guy donated $1,000 to our scholarship program right off the bat. I mean, and it was just one conversation. I asked to use the church fellowship hall for a meeting, and they wanted to know what the meeting was about. When I told them, it snowballed from there into, costing us practically nothing to put on our fish fry, our fundraiser. And then at the end of it, a man presenting us $1,000 check for a donation. So one question turned into all that. Get off your ass.
Get off your ass. ASK. Until next time, until I see you again, probably this weekend, you take care, Andy.
You too, Candace. Thanks for this and everything you do for rural communities.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.